All right, let's jump right in. Today we're diving deep into some fascinating ancient Indian genealogy.
Oh,
We're talking epic family sagas, legendary figures,
okay.
all laid out in the Brahma Purana. And you've brought some excerpts focusing on King Yayati and all of his descendants. So
Right.
let's unpack this royal family tree. What do you think?
Sounds good to me. So it's more than just like a
Yeah.
who begat whom situation.
Right.
Like these genealogies were really important in ancient Indian culture. They weren't just about like recording lineages, but they were used to explain like the origins of kingdoms.
Oh, okay.
They were used to justify a ruler's right to be in power. They were used to teach moral lessons.
So it's like a historical record, a PR campaign, and like a morality tale all rolled into one.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it.
That's impressive multitasking.
Yeah, yeah.
But where do we even begin with something this massive?
Well, King Yadi's story is a great place to start.
Okay.
Imagine you're cursed with premature old age,
Oh.
and you're desperate to regain your youth. So you ask your sons for an incredible favor
Okay.
to exchange their youth for your old age. Talk about a tough sell.
Wow. That is a huge chi-chi ask. I can't imagine any of my siblings going for that, even if it meant inheriting a kingdom.
Right.
How did his sons react to this?
Well, only his youngest son, Puru, agreed to the exchange.
Hmm.
This act of filial piety earned him a really powerful blessing from his father. Yayati guaranteed that Puru's lineage would become incredibly illustrious.
Okay, so that's why these excerpts are focusing on Puru's line.
Exactly.
He's the chosen one, so to speak. His
Yeah.
lineage is like the main storyline, right? Leading all the way to the Kuru dynasty.
Precisely. That's exactly right.
Okay.
And we're not just talking minor historical footnotes here. Puru's descendants include some big names,
Like who?
like King Farada,
Okay.
whose name is thought to be the origin of Bharatavarsha, the ancient name for India.
Wow, that's some serious name recognition. It's like having your family name become synonymous with a whole country. One for the history books, for sure.
Absolutely. And the lineage continues,
Okay.
leading us to another big name, King Shantanu,
Okay.
a key figure in the epic Mahabharata. Married to the goddess Ganga, his son Bhishma plays a critical role in that story.
Hold on, married to a goddess. Okay, now things are getting really interesting.
It's a cosmic soap opera, as I like to call it.
I'm starting to see why,
Yeah,
but it's not all gods and goddesses, right?
right.
What about the more, shall we say, human figures
Yeah.
in this lineage?
Well, that's where these excerpts get really fascinating. They're packed with captivating side stories about kings and heroes, each one highlighting different aspects of ancient Indian culture and beliefs.
Oh, okay. Like,
For example, the story of King Kardaviri Arjuna, a descendant of Puru, blessed with 1,000 arms and immense power.
Okay, 1,000 arms. That's next level multitasking.
Yeah.
He must have been quite the warrior.
He was considered incredibly powerful. He even managed to capture Ravana, the demon king from the Ramayana.
So even with 1,000 arms, karma catches up to you eventually.
It seems that way.
Talk about a cautionary tale.
Indeed.
It makes you wonder, though, if this king was so powerful and righteous, what led to his downfall?
That's the beauty of these stories.
Yeah.
They invite us to think critically about the choices people made.
Hmm.
It's not simply a case of good versus evil. In Kartavirya, Arjuna's case, while he was known for his righteousness, his capture of Ravana, though seemingly justified at the time, ultimately led to his demise.
Right.
It highlights the complexity of Dharma, where actions, even with good intentions, can have unforeseen consequences.
Definitely adds a layer of nuance to the story, that's for sure. Are there any other tales that sort of illustrate this idea of Dharma and its complexities?
Absolutely. Another story that stands out is the tale of Shadhanvan,
Okay.
a king who steals the Simon Kaka gem
Oh.
and is pursued by Krishna himself.
Wow.
It's a gripping chase that ultimately leads to Shadhanvan's death, highlighting the consequences of greed and dishonesty.
Okay, so we've got 1,000-armed king, divine intervention, a stolen gem. It's like ancient India's version of an action-adventure movie.
That's one way to put it.
But it sounds like these stories aren't just about entertainment, right? They're meant to teach us something.
Exactly. These tales are woven into the genealogies to illustrate important moral and spiritual lessons. They show how choices have consequences, not just for the individual, but for their lineage and even the kingdom as a whole.
So it's not just about who you were related to, but how your actions, good or bad, shaped your destiny and the fate of those who came after you.
Precisely. And this concept is really central to understanding these genealogies.
Okay.
They weren't just family trees. They were chronicles of Dharma, They showcase the ripple effect of choices across generations. It's a perspective that can make you think differently about your own actions,
Oh, wow.
their potential impact on the future.
That's a lot to consider. Definitely adds a new dimension to the phrase family legacy, that's for sure. But we've been focusing on Puru's line so far.
Right.
Didn't King Yayati have other sons?
He did.
What about their stories and their descendants?
That's a great question, and that's where we'll pick up in part 2 of our deep dive.
Okay.
We'll explore the lineages of Yayati's other sons, uncovering more fascinating tales and connections. Because, remember, this family tree is vast, and its branches reach far and wide.
Sounds like we're just getting started. I can't wait to see where these other branches lead us. Stay tuned for part 2 of our deep dive into the epic world of ancient Indian genealogy.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the fascinating world of ancient Indian genealogy. We've been exploring the Brahma Purana, focusing on the descendants of King Yayati. We finished tracing the line of Puru, his youngest son, whose lineage led to some major figures like King Farada and the Kuru dynasty. But Puru wasn't an only child, right? No, he wasn't. Yayati had 4 other sons, Yadu, Durvasu, Druhu, and Anu. Their stories might not be as extensively detailed in these excerpts, but they still offer really valuable insights into ancient Indian history and culture.
So it's like we've explored the main branch of this family tree, and now we're about to venture into some of the lesser known, but potentially just as intriguing side branches.
Exactly.
Where should we start?
Let's shift our focus to Yadu's lineage for a moment.
Okay.
His descendants, known as the Yadavas, include some prominent figures in Hindu mythology, most notably Krishna.
Hold on, the Krishna.
Yeah.
As in the divine figure, the 8th avatar Vishnu.
Yeah.
He's part of this family tree.
He is. And his lineage is as intricate and captivating as you might imagine. Yadu had a descendant named Sahasrajit, who had 3 sons. One of those sons, Haihaya, became the founder of a powerful clan within the Yadu lineage.
So we're going even deeper into the branches now. It's like we're zooming in on a particular section of this giant genealogical map.
That's a great way to visualize it. And within this Haihaya clan, we encounter a figure we've come across before.
Okay.
Another King Kartaviri Arjuna.
Wait a minute, another one. Didn't we already talk about a King Kartaviri Arjuna in Puru's line?
Right.
Are we talking about the same guy?
This is a different king, but just as remarkable. He was the descendant of Yadu, not Puru.
Oh, okay.
And just like his namesake, he was said to possess immense power and 1,000 arms. In fact, the texts claim that he ruled over the 7 continents.
Okay. I'm starting to sense a theme here. Either ancient India had a serious surplus of arms, or there's some symbolism at play here.
You're right to be skeptical. It's highly unlikely that these kings literally had 1,000 arms.
Right.
It's more likely a symbolic representation of their vast power, influence, and ability to multitask.
That makes a lot more sense. So this Yadu lineage, Kartaviri Arjuna,
Yeah.
what was he known for besides his 1,000 metaphorical arms?
He was known for his strength, his piety, and his adherence to Dharma. He performed countless sacrifices, and it was said that he even captured Ravana, the demon king from the Ramayana.
Oh, capturing Ravana. That's quite a feat, even for a king with 1,000 arms, real or symbolic. It's interesting how these stories seem to connect different branches of the family tree and even different epics.
It highlights the interconnectedness of these narratives. These genealogies aren't just isolated family trees.
Right.
They're interwoven threads that create this really rich tapestry of mythology, history, and spiritual lessons.
So this Kartaviri Arjuna, despite his power and piety, did he also meet a dramatic end, like his counterpart in Puru's line?
He did. Eventually, he was killed by Parashurama, an avatar of Vishnu. It's a story that really emphasizes the cyclical nature of power and the importance of humility, even for the mightiest of kings.
It's a reminder that even those who seem invincible are ultimately subject to fate and the consequences of their actions. But what happened to his lineage after his death? Did his 1,000 metaphorical arms get passed down to his descendants?
Well, he had many sons, but only 5 survived. One of them, Jayadvaja, continued the lineage and became the king of Avanti.
Okay.
From there, the lineage branched out further, giving rise to various clans. These included the Vitihotras, the Sujatas, the Bhojas, the Avantis, the Tondikaras, the Talajangas, and interestingly enough, another clan named Harata.
Wow, that's a lot of branches sprouting from one family tree. It really shows how these lineages spread out, influencing different regions and shaping the political landscape of ancient India. And it's fascinating how the name Harata pops up again, this time within Yadu's lineage.
It is. It speaks to the enduring legacy of this name and its association with righteous rulership and the establishment of this vast and influential kingdom, and it really underscores the complexity of these genealogical connections.
It's like piecing together a giant puzzle where each name and each lineage reveals another piece of the bigger picture. But we've been so engrossed in the lines of Puru and Yadu, we haven't even touched upon Yayadi's other three sons.
You're right. Let's briefly turn our attention to Travasu, Druyu, and Anu. Their lineages might not be as extensively detailed in these excerpts, but they still played a significant role in ancient Indian history. Travasu's descendants are said to have established kingdoms in the southeast,
Okay.
while Druyu's lineage migrated to the northwest.
Hmm.
Anu's lineage is a bit more obscure, but some accounts place them in the Punjab region.
So we're seeing these branches of Yayadi's family tree spread out across the Indian subcontinent,
Yeah.
each contributing to the rich tapestry of cultures and kingdoms that defined ancient India.
Exactly. It's like a genealogical diaspora, with each lineage carrying a piece of Yayadi's legacy and influencing the development of different regions and cultures.
It's mind-boggling to think how one family tree can encompass so much history and mythology.
It is, yeah.
But before we move on to part 3, I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier.
Okay.
You said King Kartavirya Arjuna, the one from Yadu's line, was known for his adherence to Dharma.
Mm-hmm.
Can you elaborate on that? What exactly does Dharma mean in this context?
That's a great question. Dharma is a complex concept,
Right.
but in essence, it refers to righteous conduct, duty, and the cosmic order that governs the universe.
Hmm.
In the context of these genealogies, Dharma often manifests as a set of principles that guide the actions of kings and individuals, ensuring harmony and balance within society.
So it's not just about being a good person, it's about upholding a cosmic order. That's a pretty heavy responsibility, especially for a king.
It was, and these genealogies often highlight the consequences of adhering to or straying from Dharma. When kings ruled righteously, their kingdoms prospered.
Mm-hmm.
But when they succumbed to greed, ambition, or other vices, chaos and downfall often followed.
It's like a built-in system of checks and balances, ensuring that power is used for good and not for personal gain.
Exactly. And these stories serve as cautionary tales, reminding both rulers and ordinary people of the importance of Dharma in maintaining a just and harmonious society.
It's a concept that still resonates today, even if we don't always frame it in those terms. We still value fairness, justice, and leaders who act with integrity.
Absolutely. These ancient stories might seem like myths and legends,
Yeah.
but they contain timeless wisdom that can still guide us today.
Well said. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up part 2 of our deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground, from thousand-armed kings to the concept of Dharma.
We have.
But there's still much more to explore.
Indeed. In part 3, we'll delve deeper into the concept of Dharma and its role in shaping these ancient Indian genealogies. We'll also look at how these lineages connect to broader themes and events in Hindu mythology.
Sounds fascinating. I can't wait to see what other insights we uncover. Stay tuned for the final part of our deep dive into the epic world of ancient Indian genealogy. Welcome back to our deep dive into the world of ancient Indian genealogy. We've been tracing the lineages of King Yayadi's sons from the Brahma Purana and encountered some incredible figures along the way. We've covered Puru's line, which led to the Kuru dynasty and the epic Mahabharata, and Yadu's line, which included the divine Krishna himself. We even learned about the concept of Dharma, that cosmic order that guides righteous conduct and shapes these genealogies.
And as we continue our exploration, I think you'll find that Dharma plays a central role in understanding these stories. It's not just a background concept. It's woven into the very fabric of these narratives, influencing the actions of kings, the rise and fall of kingdoms, and even the fates of entire lineages.
Okay, so Dharma isn't just about being a good person. It's a force that shapes destiny. That's a pretty powerful concept. Can you give me some specific examples of how Dharma plays out in these genealogies?
Absolutely. Remember Matanara, descendant of Puru.
Okay.
He had 3 sons who were renowned for their righteousness and their adherence to Dharma. These sons chose to live as hermits, dedicating their lives to spiritual pursuits rather than worldly power.
Okay, so they basically gave up a chance at the throne to pursue a life of spiritual growth. That's a pretty radical commitment to Dharma.
It was. And their choice reflects a key aspect of Dharma, that true fulfillment comes not from material wealth or power, but from living in accordance with one's higher purpose.
So it's not just about ruling a kingdom, it's about ruling yourself, your desires, and your ambitions. That's a lesson that's still relevant today. But what happened to their lineage? Did they have any descendants, or did their line end with them choosing the hermit life?
Interestingly, one of Mathanara's sons, Dusyanta, had a son named Pharata,
Okay.
who became a very powerful and righteous king.
Wait, another Farata? Are we talking about the Farta, the one who gave his name to India?
Yes, the very same.
Mm-mm.
This Pharata was a Chakravartin, a term used for a universal monarch or world emperor. He was renowned for his just rule and his adherence to Dharma.
So even though Matanar's sons chose a life of renunciation, their lineage still produced a legendary king who upheld Dharma and left an indelible mark on history. It's like their commitment to spiritual growth paved the way for their descendants' worldly success.
It's a fascinating example of how Dharma can manifest in different ways. It's not always about outward actions or achievements, but about the inner qualities that shape our choices and influence those around us.
It makes you wonder about the unseen connections and ripples that our actions create both in our own lives and for generations to come. But we've talked a lot about the sons who followed Dharma. What about the ones who didn't? Are there any cautionary tales in these genealogies?
There are. Remember Yayati's other sons,
Yeah.
the ones who refused to exchange their youth for his old age?
Right, right.
They were cursed, and their lineages faced various challenges and setbacks.
So their lack of filial piety had consequences for their descendants. Sounds like a classic case of what goes around comes around.
Exactly.
Mm.
It underscores the idea that actions have consequences, not just for ourselves, but for those who come after us.
Mm.
And it highlights another facet of Dharma, the importance of respecting our elders and fulfilling our familial duties.
It's a reminder that family ties and obligations were deeply intertwined with Dharma in ancient Indian culture. It's not just about individual righteousness. It's about upholding a social order that values respect, duty, and the continuity of lineage.
Precisely. These genealogies offer a window into a worldview where individual actions were seen as having this ripple effect, impacting not just one's own destiny, but the fate of families and even entire kingdoms.
It's a perspective that can make you pause and reflect on your own choices and their potential consequences. But before we get too philosophical, I have to ask, what about the lineages of Yayati's other sons, Turvasu, Druhu, and Anu? We briefly touched upon them in part 2, but are there any intriguing stories or figures in their lines that we should know about?
While their stories might not be as extensively detailed as those of Puru and Yadu, they still offer these glimpses into the diversity and complexity of ancient Indian history. Travasu's descendants are said to have established kingdoms in the southeast, contributing to the cultural and political development of that region.
So their lineage played a role in shaping a different part of the Indian subcontinent. It's like each branch of Yadi's family tree had its own unique impact on the course of history.
Exactly. And Druhu's lineage migrated to the northwest, suggesting interactions and influences between different cultures and regions. Anu's descendants, while less prominent in these excerpts, are believed to have settled in the Punjab region, adding another layer to this genealogical tapestry.
It's incredible to think how one family tree can encompass so much history, mythology, and cultural diversity. We've gone from a king swapping ages with his son to exploring the lineages of heroes, gods, and kings who shaped the very landscape of ancient India.
It's been quite a journey. And it's a testament to the power of these ancient stories to transport us to a different time and place, offering insights into a worldview that continues to fascinate and inspire us today.
I completely agree. This deep dive has been an incredible learning experience, and I feel like I've gained a whole new appreciation for the richness and complexity of ancient Indian culture.
I'm glad to hear that. What stood out to you the most during our exploration?
Honestly, it's the concept of Dharma that really struck me. It's such a multifaceted idea, and it's fascinating how it's woven into these genealogies, shaping the actions of kings, the rise and fall of kingdoms, and even the fates of entire lineages.
It's a powerful reminder that our choices have consequences, not just for ourselves, but for those who come after us. And it's a concept that transcends time and culture, offering valuable insights into the human condition.
Well said. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up our deep dive. But before we go, what's one final thought-provoking question you'd leave our listeners with today?
Think about this. We've explored the genealogies of mythological figures, tracing lineages that lead to deities and heroes. But what about our own genealogies? What stories do our family trees hold? What can we learn from our ancestors' choices and experiences? Perhaps our own lineages are just as filled with intriguing tales and surprising connections waiting to be uncovered. It's an invitation to explore our own roots and discover the hidden stories that shape who we are today.
That's a fantastic point. It's a reminder that history isn't just something we read about in books. It's woven into our own DNA. And maybe, just maybe, our own family trees are filled with stories just as epic and insightful as those we've explored today. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into ancient Indian genealogy. We hope you'll join us next time for another fascinating exploration.